Hello and welcome again to another episode of One Starfish, where our mission is to help change the world one starfish or one person at a time. As always, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, share. That's how we get the word out about what we do. I'm excited for our guest today. Deborah and I, she met through a family member, I believe, friend,
Yes.
family member. We had friends on Facebook for a long time. And so I'm excited to get in her story. She's a wealth and freedom mentor. It's pretty cool, which she's going to dive into more what that means. But that's neat. Officially, like last 3 years. But it's been 20 years in direct sales, 20 years in real estate investing, which has to do with wealth and freedom. And we're gonna get into a lot of mindset stuff and stuff like that today. So thanks for being on the call today, Deborah.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, let's get into things. So 20 years ago, you got into direct sales and real estate investing. What got you into that? Like, what did you do before? Were you corporate?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for asking because there's, with my number of years of experiences and wisdom, there's a lot of stories inside of that. But basically, when I was in my 40s, I started my entrepreneurial journey. But prior to that, the reason I got into entrepreneurship was because we had a tragedy that happened. And I was working in corporate at the time with Estee Lauder Cosmetics as their trainer for Western Canada. And what happened was we were pregnant with our second child. And at birth, unfortunately, she didn't make it. So it was a very devastating time. But what happened was that I was working 60, 80 hours a week. And then this happens, and I just like the wall just hits you, right? So when people have things that, the wake up calls, right? They help you move towards something else in your life. So sorry to start with that, but that
Good.
is sort of like where my transition of going from corporate to entrepreneurship happened. And then that's when I went into direct sales because I said, I'm no longer working 60 hours a week, 80 hours a week. I want to have something that is more freedom based where I can be working from home. Well, 20 years ago, there weren't that many people that were working from home compared to today's day, right?
Right.
Everybody's working from home. So what happened was I decided to go into my own business, but I had no clue. I went into direct sales because there wasn't really much out there. I wasn't really thinking about doing it. But when I went in and did my due diligence, which you should do, I found that there was so much there. And based on how my coaching and mentoring was like provided by the company and the people that were leaders, top leaders actually coaching and mentoring you. So I didn't know anything about it. So this way everything I learned was because of someone else mentoring me. So that's a big deal for me is to follow people that are successful so that you can then be successful. So is everybody successful in business? No. But in my case, what happened was that I was able to replace that income within the first year and
Wow.
still work like 20 hours a week, be around my kids because we had another child after that, and be able to be having that freedom to and that flexibility. And I think that's what a lot of people want is flexibility. It's not necessarily that they don't want to have a job, but gosh, if we could be a little bit more flexible. Anyways, all that to say that I ended up replacing my full-time income. And then second year into business, I'm like, maybe I should invest in something, like where am I going to put these business profits? And a lot of people do, the typical type of investments with mutual funds, stocks, and so on. And this time I said, I think I'm going to try real estate investing. So I bought my first property. Hubby was like, are you sure? And I said, yep, I think this is going to be good. The cool part is that the person that was helping me buy a place, she was a real estate agent that had 15 rental properties. She taught me everything, what to do, what not to do, how to look at this, how to look at that, where to buy properties, everything. It was like like kind of an immersion of real estate investing. So I bought one property, went with a second and a third. And then after the third property, I said, wow, I really should maybe get some actual real estate investing training. So who did I go to? Of course, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. And so I was trained by him and understanding that cash flow quadrant. So when I looked at how everyone else is doing this, and there's a bunch of real estate investors in these rooms and they're
Mhm.
making and doing so well, why can't I do? Like I thought three was great, and it is great. But then I said, hey, maybe I can do 10 or 12. And so within 5 years, I hit my goal and purchased properties in Edmonton, Saskatchewan, Ottawa, Halifax as well. So I did kind of a little cross country investing. So what I was doing then, just to finish on that note, is that I had I learned how to have passive income, passive residual income from the direct selling business, and then passive residual income from the real estate. So yes, there's work involved, but it can become passive when you're leveraging all these different ways of having a freedom type lifestyle. So I hope that answers the question.
So anyone listening to this is like, wow, that sounds amazing. I'm going to do that. Let's talk about the work.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah, definitely. Let's do that.
I know the work. So let's talk about the work. Someone's listening to this and they're brand new and they're like, wow, I'm just going to go into direct sales. I'm going to make like the same income and I'm going to go do real estate investing and it's going to go freaking awesome. All right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what doesn't go well and what you do and like the work ethic involved in order to actually build that passive income.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So work is definitely a big thing in this whole piece because you have to set things up. You start with building your business, getting the coaching, getting the systems in place and doing the work, the
What were some
actions.
of the things like let's get granular in that first
Yes.
year because you did good and like you said not everyone does in direct sales.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of people listening to this are in some kind of direct sales or know of it or whatever.
Right.
I would imagine it's a pretty popular thing nowadays. What what did you do in that first year? Because not everyone matches their income in the specifically in the first year. What did you
Uh-huh.
do that set you apart from the hundreds of other people that started at the same time as you do and didn't make it?
Mhm. Well, you have to get out there. You can't be shy about going out and talking to people, right? So you have to go networking. You know, a lot of people will go to their family and friends, but if you don't want to do that, you've got to go out and network. So when I first started, I was just new to Ottawa, so I didn't know anyone. So I had to go to the BNIs, to the women's events and that kind of thing. And it was, uncomfortable because I wasn't used to doing the networking. However, once you get going and you start talking about it, it builds your confidence. It helps you get to like, wow, people are actually interested in knowing what I do. And I'm interested in them too. So it's not about going out and trying to get a sale right off. That's
Thank
not the
you.
goal. It's
Yes.
the building the relationships, and you are so darn good at that. Um, so that's what you have to think about is building the relationships and getting yourself set up. So in that mindset of, I am now a business owner. I am now an entrepreneur. Even if it's part-time, if you're in a day job, keep
Mhm.
that day job and work these businesses on the side. In our digital world right now, there's so many opportunities. It doesn't have to be direct sales. It doesn't, it can be practically anything out there. There's so many opportunities. And so I really help people understand what are some of those passive income streams? How can I build and diversify, but not work to the bone? Because if you're going to work a part-time gig, you want to make sure you're not like overstressing yourself and getting to the point of burnout. You still have to balance your life. And I'm big on that. So basically, I teach people how to like master their mindset around being a business owner and also having the rejection that can happen. You approach someone on something or you're talking to them about something, they seem to show interest and then they don't buy from you. Well, that's rejection, right? So you have to deal with rejection. You have to know how to get your mindset right on that.
Right. That makes sense. Well, let's touch on that and we'll come back to some other stuff I'm sure too, but I know this is your baby. So let's talk a little bit about the mindset. What started to develop your mindset and what do you see most people doing right and or wrong in working on that, entrepreneur money mindset, freedom mindset, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Well, let me go back in time.
Okay.
So when I was 17 and I left our family farm, my work ethic, as you can probably tell, will be like top notch because when you work on the farm, they have you working like crazy all your life.
Right.
So 17, I leave the farm and go to the big city and I'm going to seek my fortune. And it's going to be so exciting, right? So, of course, I had to put myself through school. I had part-time jobs and all of that. But there was this one thing that was in my mind that I couldn't get out. And that was that I wanted a little red sports car. Now, where did that come from? I mean, here's this farm kid, and then going over to like a little red sports car. And I ended up being in the cosmetic world as well. So, like, where is this all coming from? So at 17, I had this thing in my mind. This is before vision boards and manifestation was even popular. And by 21, I paid cash for what I call my freedom car, British TR6. And that was like a lot of money at the time. But how did I hold my vision for that many years to actually pay for it cash. So it was starting to come. And I think if people go back into their earlier lives and so on, they'll think, oh yeah, at 8 years old, I was actually thinking about how I could build a business, or I could make this, or I could invent that, or I could be this. Like we are already doing that in our early years. So anyways, that being said, the Freedom Car I had that for 10 years, and it was about just having that freedom to just drive through the mountains and go off to British Columbia and your hair is blowing in the wind. And that Freedom Car is what kept me in that manifestation stage. And also just being able to like look at how I'm doing things. So shortly after it was about 23, I got into personal growth and development. That was the first time I did a weekend seminar. Someone introduced me to it. I had no idea what was going to happen in this weekend seminar. And oh my gosh, it was like an immersion, but no one was talking about personal growth and development at the time. Then I invested in a franchise with my partners. And so I did that for over 3 years. But all of this stuff is happening. Like, why is this coming to me? Like the universe is bringing me these things. And at 25, I purchased my first townhouse. And, I didn't have any extra money. There's just ways that these things are coming to you. And if you want to take that so-called risk and be adventurous, but with still doing your due diligence, every time I had someone that was leading me and training me and mentoring me. So that's why I'm so big on being a mentor too, because I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on that. So yeah, back to where was I?
What are some of the
Yes,
biggest
yeah, the ahas. So
pitfalls, and what are some of the things that people
right,
could be doing to help drive that or grow it or whatever?
yeah, that's right. The best thing you can do for yourself is get into some type of personal growth and development. It's everywhere. You can do podcasts like the one you're presenting. You've got so many great guests on your podcast, but there's books, there's podcasts, there's trainings, there's weekend seminars. Some are expensive, some aren't. Like just get into it. Buy a course, buy a digital course and start learning. It's so easy to do that these days. Whereas back then it was just like, it was not as popular. So you have to build your mindset, and you're going to feel maybe weird about it sometimes and going like, can I really do that? Yes, you can. You just have to set your mind to it. But yeah, so there's pitfalls in everything that we do, and there's tragedies and there's adversity, but those setbacks and those failures are what we learn from, right? Those are the things that make us move forward. And if we're not growing, then we're what? Dying, right? The famous quote, right? So yeah, it's been quite a journey, and I love teaching people, how to do that and how to get over a lot of the different hurdles that we're coming into.
So, as you went through a lot of this stuff, what did your parents think? What did those around you think? What did you deal with as far as, because that's a big thing, like so and so, my family doesn't, especially when you talk back to direct sales, but I'm sure even like you go into the city and buying a car, all think, my
Oh yeah.
family doesn't support me, blah, 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 blah. How did you deal with that?
Yeah, they they thought I was like one of those crazy people that is doing things that are sort of different. But I have, in that being said, is being that my parents were farmers, they are more entrepreneurial than anybody else out there. They know how to build something from nothing,
Yes.
So I mean, I think that's where my real estate investing sort of energy came from too, because it was always about, let's buy some more land and then we're going to work that land. That was their legacy. That was their life. That's how they made their living. So they always said you can never go wrong with buying land or real estate. So that was in my mind from a very young age. So we have to look back at where have we been, what are we, and then apply those pieces. Like I didn't think about it until I was starting to invest for myself, that's where it was coming from. I just thought, oh yeah, they buy land. So now, I mean, there's just tons of land out there that we're all part of that legacy. And I'm so grateful for them. As far as the little sports car, yeah, they thought that was a little bit crazy because I should be driving, half
Truck.
ton truck,
Yeah,
which I like too. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, so it was kind of funny.
that's cool. So, I mean, when you talk about mindset and what like they helped you with, I would have thought, and maybe this isn't a thing at all, but I'm wondering because in farming, I grew up kind of around farming too, so it's like a make things happen extreme work ethic.
Yes.
And you are into this a little bit. Now I know you work and maybe touch on the how you align with allowing and manifesting and work ethic. And was there some hurdles that you had to conquer, um, to not just like make things happen and to get into that manifestation,
Mhm.
role? Curious.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to put a finger on it because, like I said, like why at 17 was I doing that? Why at
Mhm.
45 did I decide to go into entrepreneurship? Like, I think the universe just has your back and it's working for you in the background, behind the scenes, as they say,
Mhm.
right? But it's again having that growth mindset, that money mindset. Like if we're going to be in scarcity and lack, we're going to stay there. It's
Mhm.
not going to go. And there's very few people that have the success that is out there. I mean, what are the percentages of millionaires and billionaires out there? It's because
1%.
we still sit in that lack. I mean, but then again, not everyone is going to be, in the I quadrant or the B quadrant of the cash flow quadrant. So that's just the way it is. So if you want to go there, if you want to have, that success, that freedom lifestyle, whatever it is, because some people like to have a cabin in the woods and just, have a fireplace and read books all day long. That's fine too, but what is it that you want and how are you going to get there? So we have to put that planning together. There has to be strategy, there has to be planning, but not to the point where you're rigid. We don't want rigidity here. We want to be able to attract and magnetize that to us. So yeah, again, I put out the fact that I wanted to be going to Italy. I was thinking it was a vacation. This was when shortly after we lost our second child, and then we had the third baby, and I was doing all this Italian cooking, and I was starting to do a bit of vision board, at that time. And all of a sudden, my husband comes home and says, "Look, we have two options to like we have to move every few years, right? Because this is military." Sorry, I didn't mention that earlier, but yeah, so I've moved around a lot. And that's why I think buying and selling homes is one of my passions too, because we had to do a lot of that. But anyway, so he comes home and he says, we can go to Italy or we can go to Victoria, British Columbia for the next posting. I said, well, I'm not going to decide because where I'm at. Well, guess where we went?
Italy.
Italy. So
Cool.
3 years in Italy. At that time, wasn't working. So I was just like being a mom, stay-at-home mom, trying to live in another country. And but that was on my vision board, like where it was coming from. And then all of a sudden the universe brings it. So it's just really not forcing the vision, not, pushing on the goals and the dreams so much, but just having them there. And then they're working in the background.
Are there
Another,
times that you have struggled, and how have you worked through it with the difference of like the allowing it's going to happen and then the forcing sheer work ethic? I'm going to make this happen, kind of
right,
thing.
yeah,
Have you dealt with some of that? And how
yeah.
would you, because I know a lot of my friends, including myself, have to deal with that, where there's a
Mhm.
lot of like just make it happen, and then it's like, oh, but allow, but then like make it, and like allow,
Mm.
and like that yin and yang, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
How do you balance that?
Mhm. Well, basically, there's a lot to do with your energies, and so how your frequencies and how just put it out there. So, for example, if you have a dream and you want to buy a house, for example, this is I want to buy a house, so you're going to make it happen, but then you don't know how it's going to happen. But the main thing is, why do you want it?
Mhm.
The why is the biggest thing, and that's where the vision comes in. And if you have this why, you don't even have to worry about the how. So I didn't know how I was going to get to Italy. I just knew why I wanted it. I didn't know why, like how I was going to get the car. I still made it happen, but it was the why I wanted that. So in my mind, I'm like, this means freedom to me.
Mhm.
So if you think, that first and foremost, then you're going to get through those times when you're kind of push pull, right? That's what you're kind of, I think
Yeah,
you're
that
saying,
pull.
right?
Yeah.
The push pull. So it's like, can you just sit back and, oh, here it comes, like, wow, there's my freedom car, there's my house, there's my, all of that kind of stuff. We
Because
still
you
have
still
to,
have to work.
Yes, we have to work at it.
Everyone
But
that's listening, be very clear on this.
yes, exactly. We're not forcing it, right? The one of the things that I do in terms of that I've embraced quite heavily now is meditation.
Mm,
And
I need to
taking
talk
that
about
time in the morning, or especially when you wake up, it's so important. And apparently too, before you go to bed, I don't do as much before going to bed, but when there's a tough time through the day, just go be by yourself. If you're in a job situation, just go somewhere that you can be by yourself and just meditate without even, you can have a guided meditation, or you could just talk to yourself and just be, like still and all of that. So I'm really embracing a lot of that. I do work with a lot of Dr. Joe Dispenza, Dr. Sue Mortar. She does a lot of things about the energy codes, like your chakras and all that. So balancing those energy centers, because they're all affecting your nervous system and your body. And that's super super cool, but that wasn't what I was into back 20 some years ago when I started doing all of this. So now I'm getting into that, and it's like, whoa, this is why things happen. We can just attract it because of our energy. Do you want to be around
you
people
got
that
me
are
like I'm like all my mind's racing right now. So like
toxic?
it's fun. But okay, so someone's listening to this and trying to think of like I said, people listen to this and they're like, oh, but Deborah, that sounds
But
fantastic.
yeah, for
But you
you,
don't
right?
understand. I'm broke.
Mm,
Money, like my bank account is minus. I'm gonna lose my house. Things are in foreclosure. The kids like
mhm.
we're eating like bread and milk.
Yeah.
Like, as bad as it can be, how do I have an abundance mindset while living in extreme lack?
Mhm.
What are some tips for that? Because I know that that's a huge thing for a lot of people. And they
Yeah.
can't afford necessarily a coach. There's a lot of free stuff, and I agree with that. So listen, all the free stuff. There's a ton of free stuff. But like, what would you say? Like, what is your thoughts on that?
I think you have to go back to your why. Like, if like if you're in lack, okay, so you're not making enough money because the economy's in the toilet, that kind of stuff.
Or
So
just you
where
haven't done the work, or like it doesn't even matter why we got
yes,
where we're at, but we're there.
right. But let's say, why do you want to have more income? Why do you want to have more financial freedom? And that's what you have to keep asking yourself. And then go find people that have done it before. There is a ton of people that took
Yeah.
themselves from zero or minus negative net worth to $1 million and millions of dollars at net worth. So just follow those people and see what they've done. And it's, again, you have to have a mentor. And there are people that you can have mentors for free.
Right.
They're and just following. Sometimes it's just reading their book. You can get a lot of things for free. Go to the library. You don't have
Yes.
to spend a lot of money. It's just thinking differently and moving from the lack over to the abundance, and just telling yourself that, doing a ton of affirmations. Like, we're saying, well, I'm not good enough for that. Well, no, we are good enough. And I'm worthy. I'm worthy of making money. I'm worthy of having this lifestyle. My kids are, so important to me. That's my the one thing that's so important. I'm going to do everything possible to make sure that they're comfortable. We have a house, we can, pay the rent, or we can buy a house, or whatever it is. And it's just really moving into that, almost like forcing yourself to think differently.
Yeah, I
But we
believe
can
that's
flip
it.
it, right? We can flip it.
Yeah, I believe that
But
forcing.
yeah, and we also have choices, right? We have a choice. We like to do that, to think differently. But we get
Right.
stuck in the victim mentality, which is
Yes.
a big thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah, when you
So
keep getting in that, you keep bringing it in. Like, you see that whenever
mhm,
people like, make $1,000 and they're like, wow, I just made $1,000. And then like their car breaks down and the bill's like $1,000. It's like, because we don't believe we're worthy of that $1,000. Like, I
yeah.
can't believe it. This never happens to me. Universe is like, sure doesn't. There you go. Take that back.
Worthiness. Yeah, worthiness is a big thing. We have to feel that we're worthy of this, because everybody, like, as a baby, when you come into this world, you don't have these hangups.
Right.
When we become like 5 years old and then adults, it's just like, why do we have all of these negative things coming at us when there's this kid running around, like watching my granddaughter? She's like
They don't
full of
even
life.
care. They can wear like all the colors. They can be like naked. They don't care what anyone thinks of them. 100%.
Yeah. So just go back to that time and just say, like, why do I care? Why am I so down on myself? And, or, well, I should say, and if you are feeling that those traumas, those tough times that you've had, you have to go and get help. And if you can't afford a therapist or a coach or a mentor, then just do things on your own. There's so many free resources online these days. And don't get
Yes.
caught up in the whole scrolling thing all the time and comparing yourself to others, because that's what we do is we compare ourselves, right? Especially with the internet. Oh my gosh. It's crazy.
Yes.
I mean, we have to really force ourselves not to be comparing to others. It's
Right.
tough. It's a tough job, but just little small like steps, right? Increments of doing these things will get you there. You don't have to do everything at once. You don't have to think everything at once, because it's all a process, and trusting the process,
I love that.
trusting
So good.
yourselves. Yeah.
Um, switching gears a little bit, in real estate investing, because I know a lot of people are interested in that. What are some of the
Mhm.
pitfalls, common pitfalls that people do? Because I know there people make money and people lose a lot of money. So
Yes.
what are some of the common pitfalls, that people make in real estate investing? I mean, obviously we're not going to get in all of them, but like what are a couple that are, really impactful that you've seen or done, I guess. I don't know.
I've got a tickle in my throat now.
We got it through Zoom. Yeah, no worries. I mean, this stuff is so good for anyone listening is like, what are you willing to do to be able to change your mindset so that you can become the best version of you and, have that wealth that, I believe, obviously, I believe in God. I believe that he wants the best for us, just like any father wants the best, good father, I should add, wants the best for their kids. I believe our Heavenly Father wants the best for us. And so I think that's really impactful to like think about even that. Like you're not, we, our universe, God, whatever, the purpose is not to have you broke. So, start to even think of that, I think is really helpful. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, back to real estate investing. What are some of the pitfalls you've seen and or done that people like are common ones in that world?
They don't educate themselves.
Mm,
Yeah, I mean, I had someone holding my hand that
literally like,
first.
hey, buy this house. This is a good one.
Yes. And the why. And I listened to her for like many meetings, because it was a BNI meeting that we were in. And I heard her talking about it. So I built up this trust that this was the right woman for me. But I didn't know how to go about it. But you've got to get educated and you've got to do your due diligence. And so that's why, even with writing my book, it's all about a due diligence guide on how to start a business, right? So doing your due diligence in real estate is so important. I can say that most of my investments have worked out really well, but there were a few that I lost. I lost 100,000 in two different deals. And when you start joint venturing and doing different kinds of things, there's different things that can happen. But when I take a look at the whole portfolio and what I've gained compared to what I've lost, so you have to expect to lose something sometimes, perhaps in
Your
your
first loss, just curious, where did that fit into your journey? Was that near the beginning or were you already having quite a few successful ones?
after some successful ones. Yes,
Okay.
yes. I was investing in something that was, yeah. So it's a hard pill to swallow. We don't want to lose money,
No,
right?
it's a lot of money.
But yeah, so real estate or any type of investing that is kind of in that area of risk is a higher risk. So you have to be comfortable with that. But the point is that if you get educated, you'll feel more comfortable. The first time I loaned 50,000 or invested 50,000 RSP into, someone's a business partner, like not a business partner, but a real estate investor's property, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna like? What if this doesn't work out? Right. So there I am with 50,000, and then it was a 5-year term. Well, thank God, 12% at the end of it was like a beautiful and return. But it could have gone wrong, like some other ones did down the road. But that feeling is like you're a bit scared, but you've got to feel a bit scared and then take those steps, because if you're not feeling a little bit scared or like wondering, is this going to work out, you're not going to really grow. So it's not like everything can be guaranteed for you. This guarantees, oh, I'm going to get 12% for sure. Well, maybe something could have gone wrong, right? That's just one example. So
Right.
being very familiar with it, because I didn't know enough about that type of joint venture at the time, but it worked out really well. And then as I was working with over that 5 year period with other projects, I got comfortable with it. I got very comfortable with investing. Yeah.
Well, that's really good.
With dreams. Yeah.
Awesome, guys. And by the way, she was holding up a book called Creating Freedom. So we will have the links for her book, for all of Deborah's information, all that stuff. She has a lot of events and different stuff like that. So definitely check out all of what's going on in her life and where it can maybe benefit you or friends or whatever. We'll have all that stuff in the show notes. But in wrapping up, I always have 3 final questions and then anything we didn't touch on that you think would be really impactful for our listeners. So
Mhm.
first and final question is if someone's looking for their purpose, what's one sentence you could say that could help them find it?
That's a good question. Just go dig deep inside and just keep asking, why am I doing this? Why do I want this? And just keep asking why? And you just keep digging deeper. And sometimes you need someone to ask you those questions. So if I said to you, hey, Angie, why do you want to be in Florida right now? Why are you going to Mexico? Why are you doing what you're doing? Like why? And is it just about making money? No, usually it's way, way more than that. Because I've had people when I've been coaching them, I'll say, so why do you want to do this business? Well, I want to make money. Well, yeah, we all want to make money, but why do you want to make money? And so you keep going, you ask about 5 different questions till you get right down to it. Hope that
That's
helps.
awesome. I love that. What's a favorite quote? I'm sure you know lots, but what's a favorite quote and why?
Okay, I have quite a few. The one that I jotted down because I knew you were going to ask me this is
Perfect.
by Napoleon Hill. You are the master of your destiny. You can influence, direct, and control your environment. You can make your life what you want it to be. I love that one. It's a long
That's,
one, but it's good.
that's good. I like it. And third and final question, what's one word or sentence you want on your gravestone?
Oh gosh. Um, the fun, freedom, and the fun and freedom gal.
I like it. Okay, awesome. So you're running someone in a coffee shop, and they're working on their money mindset and all the things we just talked about. What is something though we didn't touch on yet that you think would be really impactful to leave our listeners with?
Well, basically, I would say is just go after your dream life. I mean, it sounds like it's airy fairy out there, but it is true. Don't give up. Just keep working towards that dream life. And I mean, go into, steps. Don't try to have it all at one time, but you can have it all. So just keep working on the goals and the dreams and taking care of yourself with your mindset more than anything.
That's good. I love it. Guys,
Mhm.
make sure, like we said, to share, reach out to Deborah if there's any questions, rate, review, all the things. Let's go out there. Let's change the world one starfish or one person at a time. If we can change one life at a time together, we can change the world. Thanks for being on.
Thank you.